people are nervous about what the judges are going to say. That's kind of why a lot of us feel that anxiety when it comes to appearing in court because we're like, I don't know the process. I don't know if I'm going to get into trouble, and I don't know what the judge will say. In today's music business tip, I will be discussing what it's like to go to court. Now, there's a couple different angles I want to take, and we'll start with if you are just representing yourself. Okay, if you have to go all by yourself and you don't have an attorney, but I will also give you some pointers if you do have an attorney. So, if you're watching this live or later, make sure you like, make sure you leave a comment because that helps me out a ton. And of course, subscribe so you can join the community. I love seeing you guys on the show. So, let's jump right into it. When it comes to kind of our biggest fears of going to court, for a lot of us, it sometimes has to do with the thought of, well, if this case goes to, let's say, trial, right? This idea of being not only in front of a judge, but also a jury, right? Which is a group of strangers, right? 12 people that you don't know who have your life, your case in their hands. And so that's kind of like the big climatic, what happens at the end of the case. But there's a lot of stuff that happens up until that point. So, and in fact, a lot of lawsuits don't make it to the trial period. Okay. So they don't even make it to that last thing. We're usually settling in advance. There might be what's called a motion to dismiss. There might be a motion for summary judgment. There's all kind of things that could happen. So take that out of your minds for a moment. Now let's go down the rabbit hole of best practices if you are a pro per, okay? Meaning you are representing yourself without a lawyer. Number one, you're going to get something in the mail or by email, depends on what court you are through or getting the communication from, but it might be called an order. Okay, the court is ordering you to do something. It might be called a minute entry. Either way, if you get something from a court of law, read it very carefully. Read the instructions and follow the instructions. You're going to want to make sure to show up early because 99% of the time, you're like in the downtown area of the city. Parking is horrible. It's stressful. Everything is just not fun about it. So just give yourself that extra time, whether it's like a half an hour. And if you have to sit around on your phone and watch TikTok because you're early, that's fine. But you'll alleviate a lot of stress by just having that extra time. So show up early. Read the order and minute entry very carefully as far as where you're supposed to go and what's supposed to happen. Okay. And then here's a little cheat. Okay. A lot of courts have judicial profiles, meaning you can usually do a Google search, find the website for the court you have to go to, and the judges will have a profile that has information that they want you to know. So, for example, if I'm the judge in this scenario, Judge Miss Krystle, and I say it's incredibly important to me that when you show up to my court, you never ever in your life will have a hat on. If that's something that's very important to me and you're nervous and you don't know, who you're going up in front of, read the profile. It will really help because you know who you're going to be in front of, what the kind of court etiquette is. So do a little reading, and you can usually find that just by doing a Google search and to prepare accordingly. Now, some courts also have just explanations on, their websites as far as, hey, do you have a speeding ticket and you have a hearing? Okay. If you have a speeding ticket, this is kind of how it's going to go, right? So they usually are very helpful. They don't want people to be freaking out, scared, nervous, or just to not show up. We have that happen every once in a while. That's not good. Make sure you actually show up. And then, of course, know where you want to go. Look, if you want to be like an A+ student, you could always go like the day before and just get a sense of like where you have to go, where you're going to have to park. If you don't want to do that, then just obviously carve out some additional time for when you go to show up if it is in person. And then a couple other tips. When you get there, okay, you're going to sit in the galley until you are called. A lot of times judges will do kind of cattle call. And so, you'll basically just sit with the other people in the room until they call your name. You don't have to go up and sit in the tables because it will be the galley. There will be 2 tables. And the way it works is that the table that is closest to where the jury sits, whether there's a jury there or not, the table that is closest to where the jury sits is where the plaintiff, which oftentimes will be you, it depends on what side of the case you are, is going to be the plaintiff. And the other one is the defendant. So that's also why having your order, having your minute entry is helpful because it will say, hey, you, says your name, defendant. So now you know which one you are and you know which side you're supposed to sit on. Okay. Other great things to keep in mind. Let's not interrupt the judge. Okay. The judge has authority, right? And the judge will get not happy with you if you are cutting off the judge or getting upset. And I thought this was something maybe to touch on because a lot of us, when we do go to court, it's not for anything fun. It's not because we're getting some kind of prize, right? We're dealing with some unfortunate situation. And so, with all that kind of in mind, don't interrupt the judge, just kind of go through the process. And even if the judge admonishes you at some point and is like, hey, wait your turn to talk, right? That happens a lot because they'll be saying something maybe on the other side that you're upset about. So just kind of take the instruction from the judge. You will have an opportunity to speak your side, to say your case, right? They have to do that. And then, just remember it will be a little stressful. So take some deep breaths. Okay. And then if you are going for a hearing or trial, here's another really important thing to know. Okay. Maybe you have to deal with like some family law thing. It's a custody issue. It's a divorce proceeding. I mean, we could be in all kinds of courts for all kinds of reasons. But if you're showing up and the court wants documents from you or wants evidence for you to kind of prove your case for something, make sure you don't just show up with your phone. Okay. So let's not just show up and be like, oh, judge, the text messages and all the evidence and the voicemails are here. Or, the social media stuff is here. No, the way it works is that you have to actually print out your evidence and you have to give it to the court in advance. And all that information is typically on that order or that minute entry that you received. Okay. So make sure you actually don't show up empty handed, have your exhibits, don't have weapons. Okay. If you're like me, it's like the obvious, don't have weapons, but also don't have your nail clippers. All right. So I got my trusty nail clippers and I think I got caught like once because I just keep forgetting. You got to have it. Like who else gets the hangnail issue? But in any case, just be careful. Obviously, you don't want to get caught at the front with security. So that's all kind of my quick hit list items. Now let's go into people are nervous about what the judges are going to say. That's kind of why a lot of us feel that anxiety when it comes to appearing in court because we're like, I don't know the process. I don't know if I'm going to get into trouble and I don't know what the judge will say. Keep in mind that generally speaking, judges are nice people. And, obviously be respectful, but you don't need to be afraid because if you don't know the process, if you are a pro per, so meaning you're representing yourself, the judge is going to know that. And they're going to go a little bit easier on you and they'll help to kind of guide you through it because, we're trying to actually achieve something and allow everyone to have their side of the case heard. And so just, try to keep that in mind. Judges will not be so nice in certain situations, including if you're cutting them off, if you are being rude or violating rules that they have for their courtroom otherwise. So don't do all of the stuff that we've talked about. But as far as kind of like, well, how do we avoid having to go to court in any of these instances? Of course, you could just not get into trouble, right? In the perfect world, so that you just don't have to go to court, but things happen, right? We have contracts, for example. And so a lot of times we might land in court because we have to sue someone to enforce the contract because they violated the terms, or vice versa. Maybe you violated the terms and you didn't do something. And so now you are getting sued. So that is all kind of case scenario number one if you are representing yourself. And then we'll go through if you have an attorney. Let me go real quick. We're doing this live. So let me go to the chat and let's just see really fast. Bree had a comment I wanted to pull on. Always wear clean. So Bree is a wonderfully skilled paralegal. Wear clean professional clothing that you are comfortable in. The last thing you want to be doing is shifting your outfit around. I mean, Bree, that is such a good point because, I think a lot of us are like not necessarily wearing heels, heels and skirts and suits normally, but obviously we're going to get dressed up to go to court. And so I think that you have to keep that in mind and try to be as comfortable as possible. So going back, when it comes to if you do have to go to court, here's the benefit if you hire an attorney. Okay. If you hire an attorney, you're going to have someone who is going to actually guide you through that process because obviously they will know what the hearing entails, what typically happens, some things to maybe watch out for. I mean, that's the whole point of having an advocate. It's not just to kind of defend you in the claims, but to have someone to actually walk you through that process. I know for my clients, it helps them just to feel a lot more comfortable because we can obviously, have that group meeting before the hearing, go through all the contingencies and discuss the procedure. But I will say, when it comes to having someone to go with you in court, you have to get an attorney who is licensed in the state that you live in, that you're appearing in. Okay, that's really important. Obviously, you can have anyone kind of come with you for moral support, but if you're going to have actual legal representation, it has to be someone who is properly licensed. And then, I say this as far as in the entertainment field, we definitely want to get someone who is that specializes in entertainment law. But if you are dealing with, a divorce thing or a child custody thing, get a family law attorney, right? If you have a DUI, get a criminal law attorney, and we go down the list. Okay. So if you found that valuable, please be sure to like this video, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll have a lot more just like this, helping to train you how to think like a lawyer and not panic when you go to court.